Welcome to the Tax Awareness Show. My name is Shiliboy Mutiba. I'm your host. And today we're talking VAT modernization. Some of you might have actually be in the know that South Africa actually, through VAT systems, loses a lot of money. So today in the studio, I'm with Shannon Friedman. She's a CEO and a founder of VAT Modernization South Africa. She's going to take us through this VAT modernization. What is VAT modernization? Shannon, good morning and welcome to the Tax Awareness Show.
Hey, Shelly boy, good to be here.
What is VAT modernization? Because for someone who doesn't really know, what is it?
Sure. So to maybe just put VAT modernization into context, it's probably good to compare it to what we have as our current VAT framework, which is that businesses, either every 2 months or every 1 month, depending on how large they are, they have to submit a VAT return to SARS, where it's a summary that they kind of total up what were their total VAT outputs based on how much they sold, and then their total VAT inputs based on how much they bought, or their cost of sales, essentially.
Correct.
Okay. And that gets sent on to SARS on a periodic basis. It's aggregated. And as a result of that, SARS has very little visibility into what businesses actually did with regards to their transactions. And, that's got a lot of implications for businesses as well. When businesses are trying to get their VAT refunds, there often can be delays in that. Often businesses who, are all well-meaning and trying to be compliant can sometimes find themselves in a case where they're getting audited or required to undergo an audit. And really where that all comes from is just due to the fact that SARS has very little visibility. And when you have little visibility, you kind of go and investigate in a whole bunch of areas that are quite unnecessary. And if you had all the information, you wouldn't have to spend those resources there. How VAT modernization then differs is by 2028 or over the next couple of years, rather than submitting an aggregated VAT return, businesses are going to be required to report their underlying transaction data, namely the data that underlies their invoices that they sent out, and the invoices that they receive would be sent out by somebody else, essentially allowing SARS to have all the underlying information that makes up the entire VAT vendor's basis transactions. And basically that they're getting sent all that information and getting sent that on a near real-time basis. So not that you have, every month or every 2 months you've got like VAT season or tax season, but that this is actually getting automatically sent to SARS in the background as you go about your day-to-day business transactions.
But how will SARS, you mentioned real-time, you mentioned SARS will have these on behind the background. So now my question then is, how will SARS actually have access to that? How's SARS going to have access to those transactions?
So it's going to have to require businesses to set up infrastructure or systems that actually facilitates them transmitting that data to SARS. So SARS is going to have a portal on their own end. They've alluded to the fact that they might be receiving this data by either SFTP, APIs, Connect Direct. That's still to be determined how it actually gets sent there. But what businesses are all going to have something integrated with their current invoicing systems, accounting systems, is something called an e-invoicing solution, where essentially you have a solution that sits on your existing accounting stack, tech stack, whatever you want to call it, and that as you are creating your invoices, often you're creating it in your ERP, your accounting package, whatever have you, automatically that data is getting fed into the e-invoicing system. It gets prepared in the format that SARS wants to see it in, because obviously they want that to be standardized. And then that gets prepared and sent to SARS via one of those transmission protocols.
This sounds all so complicated, right? And sounds like there's going to be a shift. But why all this shift? Why is it all these things necessary? Is there some form of gaps that SARS is trying to fill? What's going on? Why all these changes?
Sure. So SARS isn't doing this in a vacuum. This is something that countries worldwide are tackling. Because what we see with VAT specifically as a tax, so any type of tax type that you have in a country, you're going to have a compliance gap, which is essentially the tax that your tax authority receives doesn't equal and is less than the tax that they should have gotten if everybody complied and everything was done accurately. So when you've got something like that, which has very little visibility, as we spoke about, from SARS's perspective, it opens up a lot of space for essentially overstating your inputs and making your VAT liability seem a lot smaller. So obviously the majority of businesses are not doing this. Obviously the majority are just trying to be compliant and get on with doing their normal business transactions. But the small minority that do are having a great impact on tax collections. Now, when it comes to VAT compliance gaps, historically it's been estimated in South Africa to be around 5 to 15%. We're even having tax experts come out the woodwork saying that they actually believe it's quite a bit higher than that. But if you do the numbers there, we're talking about on average 50 billion rand.
That's quite a lot of money
being lost out of the system each year. It is a lot of money.
It's quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the reason that is justifying why we're doing that. But then as a taxpayer, as an SMME or as a owner of the business, I'll want to know, but what's in for me? How's this actually assisting with my efficiency within the business by actually implementing the e-invoicing?
Absolutely. So I'd say in terms of benefits towards the business, it's twofold, okay? So there is actually the benefits from a compliance perspective, which is that your actual compliance, when you have the system put in place, can be a lot more simplified because, this data is getting automatically reported for you due to the fact that if SARS has greater visibility, if you are trying to legitimately claim refunds, send your VAT returns in, those types of things are going to be processed a lot more quicker and with a lot less suspicion. When it actually comes to as you said, the business benefits, like the commercial benefits, what I always like to always explain it is when SARS is implementing this or other tax authorities are implementing this in their own countries, they're not just doing this to make our lives difficult, although it can often seem that way. They're doing it for a benefit and an efficiency benefit for themselves, helping to automate their processes a lot more, gain a lot more visibility. And in that same vein, businesses can get those benefits as well.
Transparency. But do we know any form of success stories that has been implemented in other countries? You mentioned that some countries already have implemented this system. Any success stories that have been articulated to that?
Sure. So different countries are in different stages of their implementation. But if you look at countries where it's more mature, there's definitely been a lot of success in those areas. So one of the early adopters of mandatory e-invoicing was Italy, and they already are reporting around 6 billion euros extra collected in VAT per year. That's quite a lot. It's quite a lot. I mean, you've got some quite extreme examples, like especially in South America, where they are reporting that their VAT gap has reduced by basically half. So it's all just the fact that it becomes a lot more difficult to create these manipulations. Yes. And as a result of that, the only choice that such businesses have is to report it accurately. As a
SME, or rather small and medium enterprises, I'm the owner, I'm sitting there and I'm listening to you say, listen, I think I can adopt it. I think these can actually assist me in running my business efficiently. I'm going to be on a real time, be able to see my transactions. Can the small and medium enterprises actually right now adopt such systems?
So I think it largely depends on your infrastructure that you've got in place. And not that you can't implement it if you don't have certain infrastructure, but there is a difference in the solutions available to you. So definitely, I think a lot of SMEs, it's a lot more common to be using accounting packages like your zeros, invoicing packages that are a lot more accessible to smaller businesses. And with those types of packages, of course, you can integrate it exactly the same way you can do with your more sophisticated or I shouldn't say sophisticated, but your more expensive packages and stuff like that. On the other hand, when you've got maybe SMEs who are doing their invoicing quite manually, perhaps they're still using paper or they don't have any invoicing or accounting system, there is a bit more of a challenge there, and there is a bit more nuance there, like to be completely honest with you. So sometimes, a lot of the times what we've seen from overseas is there are applications available, and my opinion of them is they often do tend to be quite manual still, and sometimes I think do double work or create duplicate work for such businesses. What I find very exciting about in South Africa is, due to the fact that we've got this huge SME base and we've got all these businesses, and therefore we've got companies where you've got those smart pay point systems, your Yokos, Ecocos, stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yuko, yeah.
You can have applications in place that integrate with those devices directly. And I think that could be quite an exciting
especially in the informal sector, because it's used a lot in those informal sectors. That would be great. That would actually help a lot. It sounds like it's going to be compulsory. I mean, for someone who's sitting there say, do I really need to implement this? Is this thing going to be compulsory? Is this thing going to be compulsory though?
Yes, it is. I think the only way that you're actually going to realize actual increases, or I should say decreases in your VAT gap, is if the entire VAT vendor base participates. Now, it's probably going to be more of a phased approach where probably actually your larger businesses are going to be expected to roll out and implement these solutions first. But as I said, to get the full impact of VAT modernization, the rollout over time is going to be extending to your smaller businesses, your SMEs, such that you get the full VAT registered base.
Correct. Maybe take me through this. Currently, we're invoicing. I mean, I'll go into an accounting system and invoice and download that invoice. Pretty much is PDF.
Yes.
And then I'll send to my client and hope that my client will pay me sooner, and then cash flow is improved. How's that invoicing process? That is the current invoicing process. How is that going to differ to the e-invoicing processes?
So I guess what you're asking is in terms of the commercial benefits to businesses.
Yeah, but also the systematically. Remember now, it means we're no longer. I'm expecting that we're no longer going to have PDF. Am I correct? When
so it can definitely be supported by a visual format like a PDF, because probably a lot of times, people, they still want to be able to see the actual document and stuff. Human brains and computer brains are very different in processing information. For us to see a PDF, great, easy to understand. For us to see this whole XML full of data, but more difficult to understand.
Correct.
But the computer loves that kind of thing.
Okay.
So where you're going to see a big difference for businesses is just in terms of the fact there's going to be a lot less manual administration work with regards to processing that information. So yes, they can have a PDF for their references, but someone actually sits with all those PDFs and starts entering it into their accounting system or into their books and stuff.
Correct.
Whereas if you have the XMLs or an underlying data format, that can all get processed automatically, processed instantly. You don't have the errors associated with actually entering all this data in. And really what I think is going to be a huge benefit to businesses is that you start dealing with real-time information. A lot of the time, finance departments, we're always working 1 month behind. And
by that time, I'm printing these to satisfy my mental picture. By that time that I've printed these PDF, SARS already automatically has access to that information from the e-invoicing. That's what I'm hearing.
That basically when you generate your invoice to send to your customers, the e-invoicing software would take that data and send it to SARS.
Yes, correct. That's quite interesting. Yes. So, but then tell me, are there any form of deadlines that the SMMEs needs to be aware of?
So in terms of the actual final dates, those are still to be finalized. Okay. They are floating around this timeline of 2028. But yeah, we're going to still have to see in terms of the actual
still going to be a lot of debate, and I'm expecting that you'll keep us updated, and you're gonna share with us how the process it goes, and how SARS, National Treasury, I'm sure even from tax practitioners, we're still going to be consulted to say, we're bringing in this system, what's your take on it?
No, sure, and that's what we all intend to do, because South Africa, we have a huge base of VAT vendors, and we really want to try and get everybody, onboarded, implemented, that they have something in place, that they are prepared for when this deadline comes. And that's the reason for, obviously spreading this awareness at this point in time.
And then what are the costs that SMEs should be anticipating with this migration?
So a lot of the times, a lot of these costs are going to depend on their things like their invoicing volumes, the number of trade partners they deal with, so like their customers and suppliers. So it's all largely dependent on those factors. So you could say that there is, to some extent, would be like some sort of means testing baked in there, because, if you've got more transaction volumes, larger customers, there's a bit of a correlation there. But yeah, I think what we're trying to do especially is ensure that we can implement a system that integrates directly with the technology stack they have as ready,
that is already existing,
to ensure it's cost effective.
Yes, exactly.
That is important.
Yeah, because if it can be too costly, we might not have elite adopters.
It becomes impractical.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But as VAT Modernization South Africa, what support are you guys providing to the taxpayers to ensure that they actually lean towards adopting this? What's your role in the VAT modernization?
So we're trying to work through as many businesses as possible over the next 3 years, basically speaking to them, raising that awareness, but also at the same time offering a technology solution that integrates with the existing system. So we will investigate, what accounting package or ERP they have at the moment, and then provide them with a solution that integrates directly with it, such that when the deadline comes, they're ready to transition, switch over, and turn themselves on. But what we like to also do at the same time is that have a solution in place that provides them a lot of the commercial e-invoicing benefits, such that their business can benefit as well, whether it's automation, enhanced reporting capabilities, accounts receivable automation, accounts payable automation. So really that they can also actually enjoy all the benefits of e-invoicing.
You speak of solutions. Maybe do you want to take us through some of the solutions that you guys have in place to exactly prepare these guys towards the migration?
Okay, so basically our solution is essentially an all-in-one platform that will integrate with their accounting system, perform the e-invoicing task, which is the data preparation, as well as the transmission to SARS's portals or their transmission protocols. But at the same time is a platform that helps with their accounts receivable processes and their accounts receivable automation. So we help them automate the distribution of things like their statements, their invoices, making sure that they send it out linked with all the supporting documentation, and as well help report on what does their sales and collections functions look like, because we have that underlying data from the e-invoice. It really extends to a whole bunch of functions that businesses can take advantage of.
It sounds like there may be a learning curve required there.
Sure.
And my experience taught me that when someone is used to do things in a particular way, to come and change them, to actually move them to do this. Are you guys anticipating that you're going to be providing workshops and training for your clientele to actually adopt those systems?
No, definitely. No, look, and definitely when it comes to adopting something new, there always is a bit of a learning curve involved. It's often worth it. It's often you get a whole lot of benefits down the long run, but you do need to get over that hill or that hurdle. So yes, so with all our clients that we do work with, we provide free training obviously directly after implementation, as well as training for as long as they're obviously using our services and working with us. We want, for us, it's important that businesses are getting the maximum benefit out of the platform, are engaging and actually seeing the true value, because that's what we're here for.
Okay, that's great. It's been amazing to talk about VAT modernization and e-invoicing with Shannon Friedman from VAT Modernization South Africa. Maybe in closing, tell SMMEs what they should be doing, the ABC, in preparation for this migration, because the reality is that this is inevitable. It's coming. It's going to revolutionize our VAT system.
No, okay, perfect. So I'd say the first step is obviously, do your own research, look at things yourself. You can Google SARS's VAT modernization paper where they discuss their plans to implement VAT modernization, as well as there's going to be a whole host of articles that you're going to come across, some of them from us, some of them from consulting firms, law firms, stuff like that, discussing these issues. And hopefully that would give a bit more of context to what that modernization is and what businesses are going to be expected to do. The next step, I would say, is for businesses to reach out to a e-invoicing expert or VAT modernization expert. Preferably, I would say you would want somebody based in South Africa, just because each country's different. They've got their own nuances, and you want to have a business that is going to be agile if SARS does make any changes or has any specific requirements. And then it's about just having that conversation about, looking at your current systems and working with someone to see what you can put in place such that you are prepared for upcoming VAT modernization requirements, while at the same time, getting benefits out of it for yourself and your own business. Cash flow in particular is particularly important to any business's operations. And we're very passionate about showing businesses how e-invoicing can help them gain greater control over their cash flow, improve their cash flow, and enjoy better business as a result.
That's great. And that's it from us. And be ready for VAT modernization so that you are not one of those that are going to be left behind and you find that you have to play a catch-up. We all know that playing catch-up can be very, very costly. So let's do that. And if you need any further assistance on VAT modernization or e-invoicing, you want to do more research, you can reach out to VAT Modernization South Africa. You can just Google them. They are all over. She's quite accessible. I'm sure that she'll be very more than happy to assist you guys in transiting from the current VAT systems into VAT modernization system that we're going to be seeing, where we're going to be reporting transactions real time. I just love the efficiency that is going to bring in the business, so that even the owners of these enterprises will be able to know their transactions in real time and be able to know their taxes in real time. But equally so, for fiscal purposes, South Africa will be able to collect the revenue on time and actually close those VAT gaps that we have seen, as she mentioned, that billions and billions are being lost to the fiscals because of VAT gaps. My name is Shannon Friedman. I'm your host of the Tax Awareness Show. That's it for today, and good day.